Welcome to Spring Splash. I'm KARL ASPELUND, the Department Chairperson of Textiles, Fashion Merchandising and Design. Few things have been as consistently enjoyable for the past 17 years as watching our students put together the annual Spring Splash event. This year is equally so, even though with the demands of the time, we are coming to you online. At Splash, we celebrate our students' achievements. We honor alums, we enjoy our students' creativity, and we fundraise for the department. Now, the students have put together a great show this year. You'll meet students, faculty, and alums, and of course see our students' wonderful creative work and designs. TMD has deep roots at URI. From the early days as clothing and textiles as part of home economics, it developed into textiles, fashion merchandising and design as part of the College of Human Science and Services. Our move to URI's College of Business 5 years ago brought with it many new, interesting, and exciting opportunities. Our students benefit from the close association with a cutting-edge business education that the college offers, while we have, it's safe to say, expanded the college's mission. We now have nearly 300 majors studying in a truly interdisciplinary and global field. Business, social science, arts, science, and history, all woven together with the common theme of textiles. We're very proud of our students, a sentiment I'm sure you'll share and understand after watching their show. Thank you for being here. Although at a distance, your interest is a wonderful show of support. Now enjoy the show.
Hello, my name is Erin Hausman and I am a senior textiles, fashion merchandising and design student at the University of Rhode Island. For my design, I was inspired by the fashion of the 70s. This is reflected in the pleated miniskirt and the full-length bell sleeves. To make this design, I changed the original bodice sloper to an armhole princess. I drew style lines to create a half octagon shape for the neckline and for this small lace inset in the neck. For the skirt, I transferred the darts to the hem and created a unique yoke shape for the top of the skirt. For the bottom, I took the remaining part of the skirt, slashed and spread it to add fullness, which I would eventually create pleats with. The hardest part was figuring out the logistics of the bodice and sewing everything together. I had a lot of redos, but I'm very happy with my final outcome. While this is not my first time creating something from an original design, the biggest learning experience from this project and all of the others is that I need to trust myself and my abilities and that I could indeed complete it. So I'm actually doing a research project along with my collection, so I'm basing it off of the New Romantics, which is a London subculture. We learned about it in Dr. Struvel's class, and she's actually helping me. I applied for a research grant as well, and I am creating like a poster, and I will present it at the end of like the year like competition thing. But I just was really, I've always like been attracted to it, and I kind of wanted to do something like this for a while. But it's like very David Bowie-esque, like very Harry Styles, like current fashion. So it's really fun.
My background, I'm a chemist, so you know, and I'm going to go back a little further. And when I was in high school, I had a really good chemistry teacher, and you know, okay, I like chemistry. So when I'm going to go to college, what major should I choose? And plain chemistry probably sounded pretty boring. It probably sounds horrible to you. But then I found a couple of universities that had majors in what they called color chemistry. And that sounded a lot more interesting. So that led, you know, without me realizing it, that was more or less all about textiles and dyes.
Yeah.
So I got my bachelor's degree, and then someone said, you know, do you want to carry on being a student for another few years? And sign me up, you know, because I like being a student. So I stayed on and did a PhD, and the PhD was all about dye stuffs, you know, making new dyes. So when I finished that, where am I going to get a job? So the logical place was in a company who made dyes. So yeah, that time in the industry was about, I was in the research labs. I was not a research chemist, I'm what they call a development chemist. So they had, the research people would come up with this, here's a new idea. Okay, they've done it in a test tube. I've got to do it in 1 ton at a time. I'm moving the process from small scale to big scale and then looking after it as it goes through the plant and they get used to running that process. So that, that was my job. My main job for the last 30 years has been teaching TMD 303 and 313, textile science and the lab that goes with it. Very enjoyable because I get to meet students that way, and pretty much as soon as someone's been in my class, I kind of know who they are and that kind of thing. I also developed the course in color science, so I brought that and invented it, and that's some fairly complicated science, but I made it a freshman course, and it's one of the Gen Ed science courses. So it's part of Gen Ed. So we get a lot of non-majors in there. So for me, teaching that always was interesting to meet students who are not TMD students and kind of just compare those. There's a senior course in textile performance that I taught. And right now, all these courses I'm describing, again, I'm retiring at the end of this year. Mr. Malachowski is also teaching some of those courses. And I think we're in the middle of interviewing people who are going to replace me. So someone else is going to come in and teach those courses in the future. But yeah, and I'm not sure how much you appreciate this, but the TMD department is, I think it's a great department. It's always got this common thread, in the middle. There's textile stuff and the fashion stuff, but there's all these professors who approach it from different angles: the history angle, the design angle, the business angle, the science angle, and so as a faculty, we don't sort of clash too much. We each have our own little part, but we also have this nice little common bit in the middle that we is what we know and enjoy.
Well, as you can imagine, there's not a ton of programs for textile conservation, but URI is really unique in that it gives you the opportunity to kind of create your own program. I've been able to learn about textile science, I've been able to take a weaving class, in addition to all the stuff I'm learning about textile conservation. So I've really appreciated the flexibility with the program and being able to work so much hands-on with the collection.
So what has been your favorite part of the textiles program at URI?
I've appreciated how small our cohort is. I've gotten to know them all really, really well, for better, for worse. I've enjoyed, working with all the different things in the collection and kind of having that flexibility to say hey, I'm really interested in ethnographic stuff. Can I kind of look for something in that area to work on? And unexpectedly, I really enjoyed being the TMD 303 TA. I really liked getting to, I think, teach maybe 2 of you. Yeah, we're in 303 at the same time. And it was a different way to kind of grow the way I understood textiles, because it's different when you're learning it and then trying to teach it to somebody else. So those are all some of my favorite parts of what I've done here.
I really am into sustainability, and that's kind of what my collection is based off of.
Okay.
So I took a class that taught me how to design clothing, and we made a collection, and my collection was upcycling. So I went to a store and I actually bought 6 garments, and then I sketched out what it would look like if I combined those garments. And then from that class, I did the independent study with Dr. Hannell, and I chose 3 of those outfits to design.
How do you think that the T&D department at URI has shaped you to become a better designer and your experience with your collection?
URI has definitely helped me, because growing up, I kind of just did my own thing, which technically wasn't completely right. There was a lot of things that were off, and one thing that definitely helped me was finishing your raw edges. I never knew how to finish them correctly, and we went through 6 different ways to finish it, and I feel that has really helped me to finish a garment, because even though the inside is not seen, it's just as important as the outside, which I learned at URI. Because think about it, when you're selling something, you want the inside to look good, because imagine someone buys a garment and it looks really weird inside. Senior year of high school, they had this new concept. Instead of doing the portfolio, you can do a project.
and I decided to design a collection and make one of the outfits. So I reached out to URI, and Dr. Hannell answered and said that she would help me. So I knew her before I even went to URI, which I feel like made me feel more comfortable going into the classes because at least I knew like one professor.
My name is Michelle Newby. I currently work on brand marketing strategy for Adidas based out of Germany. You'll hear me say either Adidas or Adidas because in America everyone says Adidas, but everywhere else in the world says Adidas because that's actually the correct way to say it.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it stands for, so Adi Dassler is the founder. His name is Adi. So it's actually his name. But yeah, so after graduating from University of Rhode Island in 2007, I worked at a fashion brand for about a year in New York City. And then after that, I moved up to the Boston area with Reebok. So there I was doing product marketing for women's apparel, which is basically like building the product with the design and development team and then presenting and marketing it to the merchandisers and buyers. And then after working at Reebok for 6 years and meeting my husband there, we actually decided we wanted to gain some international experience. So we started looking for ways to move abroad. Adidas owns Reebok. So it was actually a really easy transition for us to both get full-time jobs. And it's actually also an English-speaking company, which is amazing because I still don't speak German that well. And then I've been in Germany for just over 6 years, and I've been in different roles while I've been here. So product marketing for Adidas, Textile, and McCartney, but then also brand marketing for Wanderlust and Karlie Kloss, and then most recently marketing strategy. I chose to study TMD because when I was in high school, I actually took 4 years of fashion design and I absolutely loved it. But I knew it was a passion, but I also was conscious I didn't want to restrict my options by going to a smaller design school like FIT. I wanted to be able to go to a bigger school in case I wanted to change my mind. So University of Rhode Island was the perfect fit because it allowed me to study fashion, but then I also minored in business. And I knew that that would actually open up the options of careers after I graduated. So it was really having the best of both worlds. And then our other inspiration right now is the Gen Z consumer. They're one of our biggest inspirations. It's because it's this unicorn that we don't seem to understand. And I think that's a strength that you guys all have is you are living and breathing consumer insight. So make sure you use that to your advantage.
Probably started when I was about 10, I would say. I've always liked fashion. I've always been very creative. I grew up drawing, painting, color, like all the coloring books. That was something I was always interested in. And I think I started hand sewing. I found my mom's sewing box when I was probably about like 8 and started hand sewing. I would make little pillows and stuff them with cotton balls because I didn't have any like actual stuffing. And so it kind of stemmed from there. And I was always drawing clothes and coloring them in and sketching. And then I got my first sewing machine when I was 10. I bought it with Christmas money and it just kind of all flowed from there. When I was applying to colleges, I knew I didn't really want to go to like a city school. I wanted the state university kind of experience with like the open campus and like all the different things going on. And so I applied to all state schools. I didn't really have like a portfolio set up, even though I'd been sewing and doing all these things, but I liked the idea of URI being like the way it's set up. It's like merchandising and design and textile science. So like toes all in one.
Yeah.
And I liked all the classes that were offered. And like my older sister actually graduated from URI. And so I remember going to look at it with her back in like 2013 and like being on the campus. And I remember sitting in the information session and they brought up the TMD program and they said something about someone from TMD having an internship with Michael Kors. And I remember my mom looking at me being like, oh, like.
The purpose is really just to allow members to network with each other, with alum, to give everyone kind of a sense of community. The TMD department is big and it's growing. So it's kind of nice to just have that network of, right now, mostly girls, but we do have a couple guys sprinkling here and there. It's nice to have that network for either classes or internships or whatever it may be. And that's kind of just what we're here to do. I think our mission says something about academic excellence, and we do try to work hard to do some sort of philanthropy. So our members do have some sort of volunteer requirement each semester. Normally that's fulfilled within Spring Splash, but with the different format this year, we're kind of getting creative with clothing drives and other things like that.
How long have you been designing?
Probably for about 3 years. I took the sewing class and the pattern making my sophomore year. So that's truly when I like started to get into it after knowing how to actually do it. So yeah, the past 3 years I've just kind of been doing side projects of my own along with like school projects, and it's really pushed me to like dive in deep to the design aspect and be creative in my patterns and my designs and collections. So the inspiration behind my, I guess, outfit I'm creating, it was really taken from like simplicity and kind of going back to the roots of where we all started, I guess. Like I'm sure you've seen, or I don't know if you have, but I'm sure a lot of people have seen the show Bridgerton, and I just absolutely loved the pieces they wore. I loved the design, just like everything about that time period. And I think I spent a lot of time outdoors during lockdown, and that really helped push me towards like getting back to simplicity, I guess. I just see in the future that this is where a lot of designers are gonna take their designs to, is just a simpler route. So it's kind of hard to say where I got my inspiration because it's a bunch of places, but I would say it's definitely based off of like a I don't even know how to describe it. Kind of like a cottagecore, I guess, like type of vibe.
I am currently a master's student here at URI. I'm in the TMD department. I'm specializing in textile science, even though my interests kind of span all of the historical and futuristic and scientific and cultural. But yeah, so I grew up in Massachusetts. I always knew fashion was what I was going to do. I don't know how, but I did, which is great because I still love it. The thing that inspired me the most about the industry was like the untapped talent in students. So I was looking for a place where I could kind of explore that chemistry alongside fashion, and URI and the textile science program was exactly what I was looking for. So yeah, I'm here to help future students make their dreams come true. And right now I'm in the very middle of my thesis, which is looking at how the pandemic has affected the textile recycling industry, because I have that interest in sustainability and where the industry can be improved. And waiting on PhD decisions. By the time this is live, I'll have that decision made. And yeah, so hopefully I can be a future professor to inspire and get to know the industry even more alongside students.
The history informs us about ourselves, and then we can look to the future. So many things just come again. And in fashion, that's definitely true. There is nothing new under the sun today in the 21st century that you can't look back and see where it's come from, what influence has created what we have in the 21st century. So I think that's very fun. 20th century undergarments. And let's see, what's a nice little thing to show? Well, a lot of beautiful things from the 1920s, these gorgeous, peach-colored silks. They're so ubiquitous. For chemises, for loungewear, for pajama sets. And let's see, a little earlier, these would be your very early 20th century piece. We've got some wonderful men's things. So these are our earliest men's items.
Okay.
So they date back to about 1790. So we've got these wonderful frock coats from about 1810, 1815.
Wow.
My name is MARIANA ARAUCO. I'm a senior at the University of Rhode Island. I'm majoring in TMD, And then I also have a minor in art. For this year, I really wanted to focus something for kind of like show myself, because it is my senior year, my last year at URI. So I wanted to kind of show something that will represent me and my style. Also sort of like my development also in like pattern making. And that's what I really wanted to capture in this collection.
That's awesome. So I see your designs behind you. Can you show us some or like explain them?
So this one right here, so it has sort of the detailing right here, like princess theme design. I use organza. This is also a cotton. I also wanted to play with fabrics I never used. So like this organza I've never used. I also like implicated fish line into my ruffles so they can be like really voluminous. So that's something I've never done before either. And then like even like this like silk chiffon. I've never worked with silk chiffon because, you know, it's kind of like a difficult fabric to work with. But I was like, might as well just go out and, you know, trouble comes, I'll try to find like problem solving, you know.
What garment have you designed is your favorite or like you're most proud of?
Definitely this green one. I love how like you just see the darts in it. I love just seeing the construction of, you know, I have pleats in here too. I love how you're able, you know, as like an audience, you're able to see what really went into the garment.
Would you ever wear your designs? Like, do you make them so you can like to your size?
So far I've made some for myself, but like these were for models, so I won't be able to wear them, but yeah, I've made stuff for myself sometimes.
So I remember like in high school, I remember meeting Lucas and like we both kind of had like the same interests of just doing something related to fashion. We weren't sure what it was. I knew I loved just making designs and he always had an interest in just styling. So it kind of just went like together. So it just, the biggest part was just kind of like coming up with the idea of like how to get started. So then from there, we just came up with concepts and like we just started making whatever.
Yeah, I basically kept pushing him that like we should take it serious for like the long run too.
For me, I've always been interested in like 90s punk, like old metal, and even just like modern like hip hop and rap. So like looking up to like popular like rappers and stuff like that, and their style has always like been like our like book of what to read to like get started. So that's kind of how we've been. So like streetwear almost. The class with Goswami was definitely like significant in our learning because it definitely taught us a lot about fabric and like definitely researching like what are the best comfortability wise for like people and just understanding like what works best. Yeah, definitely that class.
I started taking TMD 327 this semester and basically that's helped me like drawing. So then now I know I can apply that towards our brand.
It was apparel design. And then that was definitely where I learned like sewing myself is definitely not my like expertise.
Right.
But it definitely taught me a lot about like just detailing, and it taught me a lot to like take appreciation for like the little things.
I am Diane Martin, and I was the apparel construction instructor from 2006 to just this past semester when we began, I should say, the fall semester. Every time they succeeded with a project, I was happy. So there wasn't just one, it was just seeing, you know, from what they could begin with at the, you know, when I first met them in my program to finding what they made for Spring Splash and to see them on the runway. I guess those were the fun times to really finally see it on the runway and say they've made it, you know. So I feel honored that I could teach and give back what I had learned so much in my career.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like after so many years of experience, we were so blessed to have you teaching our students and having them learn from you?
It was always exciting. It was because you just didn't know what someone wanted to make. Granted, I was doing the basics. I was doing skirts, pants, and shirts. And I have lots of skirts, pants, and shirts in my closet that I really haven't been wearing since I retired because of the pandemic. You have to look at the garment and see how it's going to be worn on the person you're making it. If that garment doesn't move with the person, it doesn't fit the person, it's not suited for the occasion, it's not going to work. So you have to really know your customer. Know her mentally, know her body, know her measurements, and work from there.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle Cooper, and this is my pattern making final for Dr. Hanel's class, Fall 2020. So my inspiration for this design came from looking at images on Pinterest and just looking for styles that I wanted to learn how to recreate. So I really liked the corset kind of styles and wanted to learn how to do something like that. And I really like making very feminized clothing, so that's kind of where this came from. So to change the basic sloper for the bodice, I took out the dart excess, created a style line here, separated it out, added fullness in the top section and style lines to get this nice square cutout. And then for the midsection yoke, that was a little bit trickier. That was probably the hardest part as far as the pattern making goes, mostly because it's fully underlined and it has boning on each one of the seams. So it was pretty hard to get it to line up and not be too bulky or anything like that. So for the midsection yoke, I actually used the instructions for the diagonal yoke with a flared skirt so that I could take a little chunk off of the front of the skirt so that it would dip down just a tiny bit and give a little bit of a shape. So for the skirt pattern, I just took out the dart excess, transferred it to the hemline, and then, like I said, took that chopped chunk out and added a bunch of gathers and a little tiny bit of a flare. So I do have a center back seam so that I could get the zip in. And then a little hook and eye at the top because my zipper fell a little bit short.
So I wanted an internship for sure. Like there was no way I was going to graduate without getting one. I think something I wish I had known before was that no matter what you're doing at a job, even if it seems like a glorified internship, like you're just like making copies or whatever all day, you're going to learn something at that job. So I think just stay as positive as possible, knowing that, it's just temporary. If you end up in a place you absolutely hate and you're really stressed out and, you have a boss who yells at you, which has happened to me. It has absolutely happened to me. Even here in Texas, it was happening. So it's like not just a New York thing, I would say just continue to have a smile on your face and don't burn bridges, even if you, again, don't like the job, because the industry is so small. I end up running into people that I worked with, years ago all the time, or, someone who knows someone who knows someone. And I actually got the West Elm gig because a friend of a friend of a friend turned it down because she was having a baby and she recommended me for the job.
Hi, my name is JERALYN Laura. I am an upcoming senior in the TMD program, and I'm a designer for Splash. For my design process, it was kind of sped up in the beginning because I did enter the independent study a little late. Thankfully, I had thought about doing Splash for so long that I did have ideas that I could work with. I then took my model's measurements, and from those, I made all of my paper patterns for all of my garments first. And then I cut everything out of muslin and basted it. I didn't get to fit all of my models in the muslin before leaving spring break, and that was my plan to after, but due to the COVID-19 and not being able to get back to campus, I wasn't able to fit all of my models. I used the skills I learned in my apparel design class to think about what colors would look good with my garment, despite me already having colors in mind, just to make sure I weighed out all my options. Used the skills that I learned from my apparel production class to be able to put my garment together, and I used the skills I learned from my pattern making classes to be able to make the paper patterns as accurate as possible so that I can make the garment.
To future students, I suggest taking any of the basic level TMD courses. I think that they do all help. Some of my favorites were Apparel 1, and I know my roommates and my friends were all really excited to see that I was learning how to sew and how cool it was. Another one of my favorite classes was the Photoshop and Illustrator class. I think that class is really useful, and it was so fun to learn how to make my own patterns.
My name is Lauren. I'm a master's student. I plan to graduate in December this year. So I'm doing the 2-year program. I'm originally from Brazil, so born and raised. English is not my first language, so if I say anything wrong here, just no judgments. I've worked in an atelier, like a fashion atelier, and that was like where I kind of like thought of combining marketing and fashion somehow. And I used to work there doing literally anything. I used to do the sales at the shop. I used to do the finance part, like with Excel. I used to do the design, coordinate the team with the design team, which was like, he was more of doing the website, and I was kind of trying to combine that into marketing and sales, bringing more of the strategic side of fashion to it. And that's where I kind of thought of like combining fashion and marketing, because before that I was thinking of like, okay, marketing, whatever that is, like, you know, anywhere. And that's where I kind of fell in love, and I thought that's what I want to do with my life. It's crazy, but I like it.
And what led you to choose URI for grad school?
So I think like the thing in my life is like, I was thinking of going to the more industry path. And I worked in New York. I was working in New York in 2019 in the jewelry industry and marketing. And I love jewelry. I love fashion. I love sustainability. I love like talking about it, but I was not really fully happy with like a lot of things that was happening. I missed studying. I missed the university environment. And I was like, I think I want to apply for grad school. Mm-hmm. And I did a whole bunch of research. I list the entire universities, like all the universities that had fashion programs in the country. And I was comparing, I remember doing like an Excel comparing which like classes they had, and URI had the best program for like, they had like classes for buying, classes for merchandising, rather only historical part of fashion. So I think it was more like related to marketing. And the other thing is research. The research is like research at URI is huge. So like that's what I want to do. You know, I want to go through this path of marketing and fashion merchandising. So that's why I kind of chose URI, I guess.
My name is Isabel Lopes, but everybody knows me as Izzy. I co-own a brand with my best friend. He doesn't go to school. We started it about a year ago. Originally, he was his own brand and I was my own brand. Then we kind of like combined and collaborated on the project, and then we kind of just blew up from there, and it became a big deal. So I'm 19. I'm a TMD major. I'm trying to be a PR minor. And yeah, I'm from East Providence. I love the whole promotion aspect of everything. It's one of my favorites. A big part of the design process is deciding how we're going to promote it, whether we're doing a video, whether we do a poetry piece, everything we do has meaning. So promoting is definitely one of my favorite parts of the design process. So personally, I have kind of a bigger Instagram platform than my business partner. My business partner has a bigger Twitter platform than me. So we usually like do things strategically where, okay, we get ready to make this post or this flyer or this video, whatever it is that we're using to upload. And, you know, we'll post at the same time. He'll just do Twitter, I'll do Instagram. And then, you know, we'll go off and like, you know, to our people who we know and care about our brand, be like, hey, yo, can you, you know, post this on your page and stuff. And usually we don't even have to ask, it just gets done for us. But yeah, a lot of it gets done through Instagram and Twitter. And then, you know, sometimes we'll go to our Snapchats, but those are our main basis of like promotion. I'm trying to figure out a way to tap into TikTok because I know that algorithm will definitely help you, and it's definitely changed the game in terms of any form of promotion.
I'm Christina. I graduated from the TMD program in spring 2020. I've always thought that's so cool. That's kind of part of what made me want to be a designer. To better articulate like who I am as a person by what I make. And just to make clothes that people feel beautiful in and that they love. So this top, I was really inspired by the fabric. This flowy, satiny, silky fabric. I really knew I wanted to do like a nice cap sleeve that would flow. I added some pleating here. So aside from the pleating that I have on the pants that I made and in another skirt that I made, I wanted to make my own pleats. So I have some there. Like I said, this one was so fun to make. This was really just a design that as soon as I drew it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make that. Like that is very 30s inspired but is also like very modern. The fabric is just kind of crazy. And I was really excited about that. And like I said, that one was a little different because it was draping and I'm used to drafting. But you know, it wasn't that hard. It was hard, but I managed to get it done.
Thank you to the TMD department, Susan Smith and Elsie Brown for this generous support. This program is so unique. I'm not sure there's anywhere else where textile science, fashion history, fashion, merchandising and design, cultural analysis, and even textile conservation are all rolled together into one department. From taking and then teaching TMD 303, to learning to weave and to sew, to working hands-on with the collection and putting together exhibits, I'm so grateful for the opportunities and education I've received here at URI, and also for this support moving forward into the next steps of my career. Thank you.
Many thanks to the entire team of students, faculty, and staff who worked tirelessly to create this show. This was a true team effort, requiring collaboration, dedication, and vision. I'm sure the team joins me in thanking our lecturer, Elaine Grion, who oversaw the work with incomparable positivity and dedication. Also, many thanks to Dr. Maling Ebrahimpour, Dean of the College of Business, for his immense and constant support of the TMD department. To my colleagues in the department, thank you for all you do every day to support our students. Two students, Hazel Acosta and CARISSA Hawks, were awarded our Spring Splash scholarships this year. Congratulations. We are able to recognize our incredibly talented students thanks to alumni and friends who generously support the Spring Splash Scholarship Fund. We look forward to your continued support and to seeing you next year at Spring Splash.